Hey guys, another devotional thought here, reflection this week. Um, thinking about something, an incident in Jesus's life, and kind of thinking about it with some of the popular terms that go around on social media and things like that, particularly when people start to get into their more viral debates. But there's a lot of talk about being these days about being offended or trying to avoid to offend people. And you know to some people it seems like if you're offended or if you try to avoid offending people, it's almost like a cardinal sin. It's almost something you're doing something really significantly wrong when you try to avoid an offense. And that's often the time when we refer to people as snowflakes. That tends to be the term. Hey, here Minnesota, we got plenty of them. I'm talking about the real ones on the ground. But, you know, there was a time in Jesus's life, and I was reading it not too long ago, and I've been thinking about it, when he set a precedence for trying to not or seeking to not offend others. And we read it in Matthew 17:24 to 27. I'm going to go ahead and read it out of the New International Version. And it says, after Jesus and his disciples arrived in Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma temple tax came to Peter and asked, doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax? Yes, he does, Peter replied. When Peter came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak. What do you think, Simon? He asked. From whom do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own children or from others? From others, Peter answered. Then the children are exempt, Jesus said to him. But so that we have may not cause offense, go to the lake and throw out your line. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a 4 drachma coin. Take it and give it to them for my taxes and yours. And see, when you think of this passage and you look at this passage, one, you have to understand the whole temple tax thing. This was a tax or a duty or a fee that actually goes back to the Levitical law in the Old Testament, in the books of writings of Moses. It was a tax that was paid by men between the ages of 20 and 50 to help with the maintenance of the temple or the tabernacle. This was an ongoing fee, and so they would pay this fee once a year. Now, Jesus makes the case that because he is the Son of God and the temple is the dwelling place of God, and it is the symbol of God's presence here on earth, he kind of implies here by what he's saying that he, as a child of God, would have the right to say he didn't have to pay the temple tax because he makes that case. Well, do the kings take taxes from their children? Of course not. They would take taxes from the other people. Well, and so he's kind of in this implying that he would be exempt from the temple tax. But still, for the sake of the mission, at the end of this whole dialogue with Peter, he says, you know what? Just so we don't cause offense, why don't you go ahead and he does this miracle to provide a coin or 2 coins or whatever he needed to pay the temple tax for himself and Peter. So it's kind of implied, even though Jesus said he would have the right to be exempt from the temple tax, he considered it more important for the sake of his mission not to create an offense at that time with those that were collecting the temple tax there in Capernaum. Now, there are times when Jesus did draw lines and did say, hey, I don't care what you think, this is the truth. Particularly, he would do this with the religious leaders of the day, the people that were sometimes oppressing others. When oppression was happening, he was not concerned as much about offending others. But when it came to a situation like this, he felt like the mission of the kingdom was more important than holding on to whatever he would have considered his rights. And this actually created a model that was repeated by Jesus's followers. You see references to it throughout the letters of Peter and Paul, people like that. I think particularly, in some of Paul's writings, one time he's talking with the Corinthians, and a couple of these actually come from the Corinthian letters, where he's talking about, people are like, well, hey, everything's lawful to me. And he's like, well, everything's not profitable. Paul was saying, hey, it may be your right to do whatever you want, but it may not be the best idea in that situation. And also, he talks about, there's passages where he talks about those who can be offended, what he refers to as the weaker brother. And he says, we really should be careful what we do and not using our freedom to create offense for others and cause stumbling for others who may not feel that freedom. And so he so basically Jesus, in what he was doing, kind of created a precedent for his early followers and really creates a precedent for us. There is this overemphasis on our personal rights that comes out, that we see people talk about quite a bit. And it's like, anybody who gets concerned about being too concerned about offending others kind of gets looked down upon, because, well, they're not standing up for their rights and they're letting others push them around. But see, the followers of Jesus lay aside personal rights for the sake of others. It's about prioritizing the mission of Jesus to draw people back to relationship with Jesus and back into a mutual relationship and a caring, mutual community that takes precedence over personal rights sometimes, and over fear of offending, or over saying, hey, I want my way no matter who it offends. We need to prioritize the mission of Jesus more often, I think, and think about our decisions in light of that. So I would say, it might be good for us all to think twice when we're kind of concerned about demanding our rights versus considering the good of others, and remembering that we all are, that Jesus's kingdom extends and reaches out to all people, and even those that we may have to be careful not to offend at times. So thank you, and have a good week.